Hello and welcome to the Navy Blue Corner. I'm Ian, joined as always by my good mate Lockie. And look, what was meant to be a very relaxed match review episode here has become a really sad podcast to record. As a few hours ago, we were hit by the news that scans have confirmed Jagga Smith has done his ACL, is out for the season. Lockie, the news has rocked absolutely everyone today. You yourself being in London, you've had the absolute pleasure of that news being what you woke up to this morning.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we'll start there before we dive into reacting to what happened in the game against St Kilda.
Yeah.
What was your reaction? What are your feelings to the news about Jagga Smith?
Yeah, I'm certainly still in a state of processing it. I think, like you said, I woke up at 3 a.m. to a text from you, which, yeah, definitely felt like a nightmare. Yeah. Where do you even go with this? There was so much optimism for what he could bring this year, and like it was kind of like the biggest, I guess, unknown in terms of someone new that could have a big impact. And yeah, it's just taken away from us, and I just feel so sorry for him.
Yeah, I don't think I've reacted like this to any injury. No injury has made me feel so sick in the stomach as soon as I read it, to the point where I had to double check that it was the real Mitch Cleary. It wasn't some fake Twitter profile that was just trying to stir up a fan base. I had to get that confirmation, and I just sat on the couch in the same position for about an hour trying to process it, because like I get it, and we'll kind of delve into this a little bit. He is just an 18-year-old that has never played AFL football. We don't know what impact he was going to have in this team, but I think why it's hit me so much is you look at, what we've dealt with as Carlton supporters over quite a long period of time. We haven't had a lot to smile about. Then you finally think we're starting to turn the corner. 2023 happens, where first half of that season, you're almost not wanting to watch football. Finally, it starts to turn around, make finals, make a prelim. You're excited. And then last year, you get to second. For it to peter away, there was this thought around the Carlton fan base where we thought last year we were going to take that step. To end the season poorly, it's hard to G yourself up and think, okay, how do we then turn it back around and go back to what the back end of 23 was like and get this premiership finally with this squad? You look at all the false dawns, what needs to happen. The big thing over the offseason was trading up, getting that pick 3 for Jagga Smith. Wow. Look at the great team we have, all these stars. Now we've got this superstar that's going to come in and be there for the next 10 years, add that point of difference to the midfield, this complete unknown to get excited about. That's what we all wanted, number one on all our lists preseason. I just want to see what Jagga Smith is like. To get that taken away from us, that real one, only exciting thing to start the season that's probably different from last year, it just really builds that negativity now heading into round one. Is that how it feels for you? As your kind of outlook on things, at least for the moment? Things can change, but for right now, is it hard to get positive about the season?
It is. I can't lie. Like it's only been 5 hours since hearing this news, so yeah, I'm sure that optimism will return, as it always inevitably does. But right now, it's everything you described is spot on. We felt like when we drafted him, it was kind of like, this is the ready-made, like of anyone up that top end, it's the one that would come in and be able to have the impact with us straight away. By all accounts, a really good injury history in his life. Like it's just. Yeah, but like I said, I'm mostly, my heart goes out to him, because every player has spoken fondly of him in his first 4 months at Carlton, and was just ready to hit the ground running. And like you said, I didn't get to watch the game yesterday because of being over here, but the few clips of him that I saw and the crowd reacting to him getting the ball and stuff, it was it was special. So to have that taken away so quickly is just so sad for everyone.
Yeah, it's definitely really sad. And look, I don't think his performance in the game itself overall, you're going, wow, he's going to be the best player in the AFL. But it was just those little glimpses of doing those little things that our midfield maybe doesn't have that skill set, those little quick turns, the quick step, to get out of trouble and just thinking, okay, I wanted to see the glimpses going into this game. I got a few of them. And now to know you're not going to see that all year and you're not sure maybe how we replace that is why it becomes such a sad topic to talk about. So while we don't necessarily know what we were going to get with a guy like Jagga Smith, how big of an impact do you think this has on our season? Because everyone's, like myself, is so down on it now, thinking I was optimistic that, okay, we can really have a red hot crack at this. We've only got, really Nick Newman is the one out for the season. Everyone else should be right couple weeks in at worst at this stage. You're going in with close to a full bill of health. That was kind of that exciting part to it. Now with this big injury, knowing it was a little bit that point of difference to our midfield, how big an impact will it have?
Yeah, I definitely don't have clear perspectives on this yet. One thing that comes to mind is, whenever we were thinking about an optimistic 2025, a good bill of health was the number one thing. Not even really about specific players, just like we need to have the group healthy. Already two of my hot predictions have been ruined with Jagga, rising star, and no injuries at one stage, apart from Nick Newman. So it's kind of like, yeah, exactly. It's kind of like, even if you just take the specific player out, we're already just another man down and in danger of that disrupting the squad and the flow of things. So, yeah, when we look at it and say that injuries is, a lot of us think, is the main reason why we suffered last year. If we start heading down that path again, then what kind of hope do we have?
Yeah, it really sets you back immediately, which is just so far from being ideal. I guess taking a look at that midfield, which we're going to do a lot more in depth in our next episode coming out in the next couple of days. So make sure to subscribe and follow wherever you're listening to this so you don't have to miss it. You don't have to search and find it. We'll be doing our best 23 episode and going into our depth chart, talking about all those fringe players as well and what their seasons will look like. But at this moment, looking at that midfield in isolation, who is replacing Jagga Smith? I believe you would have had him in your best 23 in your team to start this season. Take me through what that midfield mix looked like and how you think we can replace that type of player.
Well, it's funny because funny isn't the right word. Well, maybe it's interesting because it already felt like there was quite a few guys to get through that midfield. And a few guys where you could argue where their best position is. For example, talking to a couple of people, it sounded like Doc was centre-bounce mid yesterday. Whereas, spoiler, in my best 23, I probably wouldn't have him as a mid at this stage. So, there's a few of those guys to go through there. But obviously it's Cripps, Walsh and Chera. Hewitt, that's his only place to play. I guess it's kind of Lord is another one of those guys that probably would have been fringe who now could get more opportunity because of this.
Yeah, he was someone that I thought really shone when he did play in this match simulation against St. Kilda. I thought as soon as he came on, the midfield looked a little bit different. He was direct. He had a bit of zip away. Not to the quick-footedness of a guy like Jagga Smith, but there were other little traits to like from Cooper Lord. I think it is probably as easy as just him taking that Jagga Smith spot. But it will be interesting if this means that Docherty will play more midfield time, or does it open the door for a guy like Elijah Hollins, who weirdly we didn't really see in that match simulation, which we'll touch on later. Is it
right?
Does he play more midfield time? Like we saw Zach Williams and Motlop get trialed through there for a centre bounce or two. Will we just try to change things up to add some sort of dynamism to that midfield? I'm intrigued to see in this next practice match if there are any levers pulled that we haven't previously seen because of this injury, or whether they will just go maybe that safer route of, well, it's just Doc and Cooper Lord, and we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, exactly right. I guess that is the beauty of the preseason, is to be able to try out things like that. So we'll see. So yeah, it's a hard one because there's other positions on the ground and players where you could say that losing them might be more impactful in terms of like the from a positional aspect. But for who Jagga is, it just, there wouldn't be many more players that would be more heartbroken than I am right now with this news, I guess.
Yeah. And I think to look at it from one perspective, maybe more in a positive light, I've seen a few comments on Twitter, people talking about how we were sitting second last year. We thought we had the list to still be competing for that grand final, regardless of what happened now leading into this season. We've pretty much got that same squad. Same midfield is there. You know, Jagga Smith didn't exist last year for us. So should we be really that down about it, knowing that going into last year, we thought we could compete with that list? We've still got that list. So when you're looking at it with that lens, Lockie, it's still a loss, but should we be as down maybe as we are in this moment with the raw news of it filtering through only a few hours ago?
Yeah, well, that's why I'm still coming to terms with it from a Carlton impact. I think so much of my just negativity about the situation is more about him, like, and what it would be like getting drafted, going through your first preseason, and this happening in the first bout against another opponent. So, I definitely understand arguments about that, and I was extremely bullish on where the list was last year, and I was bullish about the list before we drafted Jagga as well. So that logic does track, but I can't give an optimistic take on the Jagga situation at this stage.
Yeah, we'll give it a few days and see how we are feeling. Last thing I want to touch on before we go straight into talking about the St. Kilda match simulation is the SSP, and whether you have any thoughts on how the AFL are running this at the moment, because the deadline was Friday. There was already a bit of an issue, I think, unfairness-wise in the comp, that a handful of teams were allowed to have these practice matches, match simulations against another team that wasn't just an intra-club match, trial out a few of these players fighting for a list spot, get a little bit of a clearer picture, a bit of an advantage over others. Teams like us in Melbourne didn't get that opportunity, or even maybe you might have copped an injury and then you had extra spots to replace. You had the time to do so. We played the day after that slam shut. We weren't able to see if Francis Evans or anyone else, what they were like. We didn't get that full picture. Now we've got the injury. We can't replace them. Do you have any thoughts on the deadline that the AFL has set, and maybe how you would play it out if you were in charge?
Well, I mean, to be honest, I'll put my hand up and say I haven't really thought about this. It's not something that I'm super across. I mean, the way you've laid it out makes it sound a bit obviously unfair and a bit nonsensical with the sequencing of things. As we were talking a minute ago, that thought popped into my head about whether, do the rules allow for us to now look at another player if Jagga's on the long term? And so the answer to that is no.
The answer is no. I believe Mitch Cleary was talking about, I saw a few tweets today, don't know the full in-depth of them, but it was around potentially Carlton and Melbourne talking to the AFL to see if there is anything we can do, maybe using the argument of, hey, a few of these teams got to play a game before the deadline. We didn't. We were disadvantaged. We've now lost players as well. We can't do anything about it. Surely there's a bit of leniency here for us. That may happen, but right now it looks like the door is slammed shut.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, interesting. That's I guess I assume you've kind of laid out your opinion on it through your questioning there.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty obvious. I think it's just strange, firstly, just that some teams get an advantage. I think overall, if you're trying to run a fair competition, everyone should have that opportunity. I think I'd more just like the AFL to come out and say why there needs to be the deadline so far before the season starts. Is there a reason it needs to be this early?
Good question.
I've been on the record of loving to have, the opportunity to bring in players till sort of a midway season point, like a lot of other sports do that have contracted players. The NFL, I believe the NBA is the same, where if you get an injury kind of up to a point in the season, you can still bring in players with that list spot. You can bring in these free agents. I would love that. But at least in this sense, surely the day before the first game of proper AFL is played, round 0, you can sign anyone. That seems to make sense. I don't know why it's arbitrarily so early anyway. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we hear whichever way it goes, the rationale, because I agree with you that it seems arbitrary at this stage.
Very strange. But talking about the match sim, Lockie.
All right.
Carlton played St Kilda at Icon. Now, as we touched on, you being in London did not have access to being able to watch this game at all. So you're kind of going in blind into this. So I'm going to let you take the reins and almost take this from the point of view of you were going into this game wanting to see a lot of things. You didn't actually see anything. So now you can ask and find out if you got any answers to the questions that you had. Take it away.
That's really true. And yeah, I was filthy, to be honest. I know that I'm going to get the Giants game. But yeah, no respect for the match sim. They don't think that the international audience want to take in this high quality game, which I know that you really loved. So I'm keen to hear your thoughts on all this. I guess the first thing that I'll ask is the positive kind of side from a player perspective. Who impressed you? Were there guys that stood out either from you would expect them to be positive and they continue to be good, or any kind of surprises in terms of impressing in a positive way?
Yeah, probably the biggest positive that I think everyone is going to be talking about is Jesse Motlop and his performance. It's been spoken about for a few pre-seasons. When's this guy going to explode? Sounds like he's training the house down. Seems like he's going to do it. Didn't happen last year through the injury. And you were kind of hoping to just see glimpses. Didn't need to be 4 goals and absolutely dominate, but he did that. I was just hoping for a couple of spectacular moments, but I mean, every time he was around the ball, it just looked like something exciting was going to happen. We've spoken at length about us maybe not having that X factor inside forward 50 that isn't just Charlie and Harry. When the ball hits the ground, who's going to step up? Where's that small forward? The media wanted to say Carlton have lost, Matty Owies. They're not going to be any good. Well, Jesse Motlop showed at least in a little bit there that we can expect to see this kind of form going into the season where the speed at which he attacked the ball, being in those right spots. Again, it's match simulation. I'm not going to say he's going to win the Coleman or say anything crazy off the back of it. But you wanted those brief moments. And I thought I got a lot more of that with Jesse Motlop's performance. It was electric, I would say.
Yeah, okay. Because I saw the highlights of the goals that he kicked, but there was moments outside of that too?
There was definitely a few moments. I'd say the goals were definitely the biggest component of it. Sometimes our ball movement wasn't allowing us to maybe see more of Jesse, but it's that unquantifiable thing when you're watching these games where when the ball's around him, whether it happens or not, you feel like it will. If the ball lands in his hands, he could create something. And you probably saw it as well for the Lucas Camporelli goal where just was in and around it, making things happen, kicking goals or passing the ball off. That's what I was excited about. It was just this change of pace, I think, in the front half that I don't think I've seen in a long time for Carlton that hopefully can just keep building on and we can get more of that throughout the season.
I like it. Okay. Any other individuals in that kind of regard?
I think I really liked Ollie Holland's game on the halfback. It was something we saw in about 2 games at the end of last year. To see it again, I just thought he won a lot of the football. He wanted to take the game on, all the things we love from Ollie Hollands. Yeah, there were times that maybe his disposal wasn't amazing, but he's trying to take those kicks on. And without going too much into maybe the ball movement wise, I love that he was someone that was constantly trying to, whenever he got it, play on quick, find that short option and overlap. And I liked us finally having, because we've said this with Adam Sard quite a bit, we need to utilize that more. When can we get the ball under someone's arm, have them stream off halfback? Felt like Ollie Hollands was doing that quite a lot, which is when you get a change in position heading into a season, you'll want to see some positive signs. And I think you definitely saw that with Ollie Hollands. I didn't come away from this game saying, oh shit, we've got to move him back to the wing. I liked what I saw. Let's keep it going for a few more games and get a bigger sample size.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. He's definitely one where I'm still trying to get a good kind of mental image of what that role will look like for him, and what you've described makes sense. Biting off short, sharp kicks, that feels a little hard for me to kind of imagine. But if he's kind of doing the run and carry, handball give and go kind of vibe, that feels right.
Yeah, and then there are other guys. I mean, Nick Haynes was someone I just wanted to see what they were going to be like.
Yep.
He was a bit of a mixed game, but I think his aerial intercepting that he's known for, you definitely saw the glimpses of that and what that can do going back with the flight, just commanding the space when he was there. So that's something I'm excited to see how that works with the amount of defenders. Just can they build that chemistry and connection? Because it's the first time that they've had a competitive, if you can even call it that, game together. And I thought he held up well and added to that intercept, try and get us to move quick. Will that go into the season? I guess we'll have to see. Lockie Cowan was another down back that just looked bigger and stronger. There was one where the ball was needed to be won on the wing that he just put his body on the line, went for it. He looks like someone that can definitely take that next step this season and just keep improving on his game. I'll touch on another couple really quick. I thought...
No, please. Perfect.
Orazio showed little glimpses. He's someone that I think we're going to end up talking about a lot this season. I just have this feeling that the coaches love him and he's going to play a lot more games than he will miss. And there were moments where just his ball use inside 50 and being around it, I thought were positives. I still don't know if personally I'd have him in my best team, but at least I saw some positives from him that maybe we haven't seen over the last season. As I touched on Cooper Lord as well. Sorry, you were going to ask about Orazio.
No, yeah, I'm still so confused of the role. Like, how would you describe the role that he was playing yesterday?
It felt at times he was very high up the ground, half forward, streaming back, being a bit of that connector, ball inside 50 type forward. That's interesting because it feels like we've got a fair few of those guys. Elijah, Cottrell can play there, Walsh, Docherty, there's plenty others. Zach Williams can push up, play that higher role. Fogarty, have kind of all of those ahead of Fantasia. But I think that's a bit of a watch this space. I was maybe surprised for him to be as involved as he was, which makes me think he's got a big role to play from the coach's point of view this year. I was maybe surprised in that facet. And then Matt Carroll was probably the other one that there's been a lot of chatter around his performance. Again, one of those players that these are the games where you just want to see what they can offer. He won a lot of the football. He was there a lot, rebounding. Another one that the big thing that shocked me with him was it seemed like he felt comfortable to take the game on, which when he has not had that much exposure at all at this kind of level, you don't know if he's going to go into his shell a little bit, be a bit nervous, but he was wanting to take it on. He was wanting to run past blokes, take on that risky kick. I thought the negative to his game was his disposal was really bad. He turned the ball over a lot, missed a lot of easy kicks. Inside 50, I thought he just sort of blazed it away, which a lot of players did. But I'm choosing to see the positive in, well, he won a lot of the ball. He was in the right positions. He will get that composure factor just by being in those positions, playing, maybe being a bit calmer from experience. But I don't think you can teach winning the ball and having that confidence, which is what I was impressed with a guy like Matt Carroll. Can take a mark, can be that aggressor. Wouldn't surprise me if there is a bit of a role for a guy like Matt Carroll to play this year. But even if not, just to get that little bit of exposure, get those glimpses. It's what preseason's all about. I want to know some of these guys that probably won't play a game this year, whether they'll be on the list next year. Is there something to be excited about, to watch for in the VFL? Thought we got that with Matt Carroll.
Yeah, nice one. Okay. Maybe there was some overlap here with like a Matt Carroll, but was there anything that jumped out as being surprising, either from a player perspective or just gameplay, or just anything that you were like, oh, I didn't expect to see that?
Definitely a few surprising things. I mean, firstly, Elijah Holland's not really playing until like the last quarter was something that shocked me. Don't know what's going on there, whether it's as simple as there's a fair few players in his position you're nailed on, so we just want to trial others and then we'll get you right. Whether there was a little bit of a niggle, so he was just managing his body, I have no idea. Thought it was just strange. Whether he just, because now I've got question marks on, has he not been showing it in preseason? So is he not in our best 23? Strange considering I thought he was one of our best last year. Apart from him, no Brody Kemp. I wanted to see maybe how that went. I think how we structured up with our ruck and key forwards was not what I expected. For a majority of the time, it seemed like it was Pitternet in the ruck, Harry deep, De Koning playing the Harry role from last year, that high centre half forward pushing up, which when he was around the ground, De Koning looked amazing. He's someone I probably should have touched on. He looks $1 million. All the hype in preseason. I'd be buying stock of De Koning from, again, what I saw on the weekend. But when Charlie's touch and go for round one and maybe those first few games, thought it'd be as simple as De Koning's ruck, it's Kemp and Harry. To see them go the other way, again, it's simulation. They might just be seeing it, and then in the GWS game, it'll change. But I didn't love it. I did not love Pitternet in the ruck. I thought we're past it. And I don't think we're getting better by that. And weirdly, De Koning forward, I don't know, it just felt like a waste. It felt like the trade-off in Kemp as a forward compared to Charlie, rather than now you're losing in the ruck and you're losing forward. But I don't know, just the trade-off for me wasn't right.
Interesting. The part that I'm grappling with on the rucks is I don't see a scenario where TDK, no matter how good he is or how much better than Pitty is the number one ruck in every game this year, just from a pure body point of view, the way that he bashes and crashes and all of that. So to me, it's inevitable that Pitt is going to have to play it at some points.
Yeah.
And then I look at round one and I'm like, is round one, like, if you tell me if you don't agree with this thinking, but let's say that there's a quota of TDK first ruck games. Is this round one where we want to use that quota up? It kind of
I'm not using the quota on round one Richmond.
Right?
Yeah.
So that makes me wonder whether they were if they were thinking about it that way.
And they might be. And again, it is just a preseason match. These are 4 trialing things. So it might not be something they use in the season. They might have just had this as an idea, wanted to see how it played out. I think my issue more with it is it works in theory, and I think there's still a role for Pitto to play this year. But if they're both playing, I still don't want Pitto to be the number one ruck for majority of the game, and that's what it felt like to me. If they're both playing, I'd rather it be a closer split.
Right.
And I know in the end, CBAs, it kind of ended out that way, but there were so many rotations to how we played. Each quarter was almost quite different. But felt like the main idea of the game was TDK and Harry, the forwards, pitch the ruck. That's what we're running. I feel like that's a waste of De Koning. Probably would want more switches up that way.
Gotcha.
And I guess I just wanted to see Brody Kemp in that forward line to see what that would look like, if that's a better option, rather than De Koning in the forward line. It was fine, but felt like we lost too much in the ruck when TDK in the ruck is our strength.
Yeah, no, definitely. Was there anything else that jumped out as being surprising or anything that like, has your opinion changed on anything?
I'm not sure my opinion's completely changed on anything. I've tried really hard from watching this game not to read in too much. It's that hard balance every single time where when there's bad things, you don't want to just completely ignore it. Because I think that's also ignorant, saying, oh, well, it's just going to sort itself out, because it might not. But it's definitely got my mind rolling on a few different topics. Okay. But one thing I want to touch on firstly is that surprised me was 4 key tall defenders.
Yeah.
In Wiedering, Young, Haynes, and McGovern. Didn't like it. Think it's way too tall. Maybe it'll work better if Silvani's in for a guy like Young, more mobile. Interested to see how that pans out. If we're going to go with the 4. but I think we're losing just something by playing Haynes and McGovern as one of them is a bit more of a small. I don't think that's the way forward. Happy for them to trial it. Of course, now's the time to do it, but not for me if that's something they're going to roll with Young and Wiedering and then two more talls. It wasn't obviously bad. Like, I wasn't watching that game when St Kilda were kicking goals going, this is 100% because we've got these four talls out there. But it just wasn't. I was watching it and going, this isn't our best back 6 or 7. We can definitely get some more run. And there was something missing. And when I was looking at it, I'm going, I think it's because of the four talls.
Yeah.
It wasn't disastrous, though.
I remember that happening in preseason last year too, with Marchbank and Kemp and Young all playing, and everyone was like cracking it because they thought that none of them were playing well. It's really tricky. Yeah. I mean, we'll talk about obviously our best 23s in the next episode, but the backline mix, it's not like we haven't seen them try four talls in the Voss era, right?
Yeah.
Like we've seen that. And I'm with you. I don't know whether it's ever our best tactic.
Yeah, which is why I'm interested with a Silvani, because I think if you're going to go for it, having one main lockdown tall and then 3 more dynamic, then it might work. Don't think it was ideal this time round. The couple of areas that I'm not convinced, I haven't completely changed my mind, but it's got me questioning for the next practice match into the season is Sam Docherty. I hate saying it, but wasn't great. Definitely would not be using those words to describe Sam Docherty. Slow, disposal wasn't there, looked off the pace. Okay. Now, is that just because he hasn't had the football under himself from the ACL? Is that because of the ACL and this is going to be what Docherty is now? Not sure. But I kind of was going into this practice match in the preseason thinking, by the end of the season, Docherty might not be in our best, but for now, he's probably got a spot, whether it's a wing, mid-rotation, half forward, half back. I think he's still got a decent role to play. Again, I don't want to read too much into one game, but there was a couple of alarm bells thinking, ooh, I didn't expect it to be this bad.
Yeah.
So I guess it's a bit of a watch this space to see how he progresses. When he was playing a lot, he had a lot of CBAs. When he was a more full-time mid, thought he was very bad. I'd be dropping him the next week if that was his role. When he moved more to halfback, I thought he was a lot more solid. Thought he shored things up a little bit for us. So maybe that's opened a question mark where I didn't see him as that halfback for this season. I know you were talking about that in some of our last episodes, but he looked a lot better there. So maybe that's opened up an opportunity for, knowing Newman's not there, he looked his best. If we're going to play him out of one game down back, is it as simple as he comes in for Newman?
What were the attributes of it being bad in the midfield? Was it lack of getting the ball? Was it poor decision-making, disposal?
It was like, it wasn't necessarily his positioning was bad, but as soon as the ball was there, he looked like when you throw in like a VFL player into AFL and the ball's there and they're around it, but they're having no influence. And every time they should be getting it or you think they're going to be involved, they're just off it and the ball goes away from them. I'm finding that it's hard to describe it, but I'd just say off the pace and not winning the ball, not having that impact around, just kind of ball chasing is what it felt like. Whereas then when he was maybe given a bit more of that clear role off halfback, it felt more like Doc the General to a degree when he was down there, mopping it up, having a clearer, direct movement. Whereas on the ball, it was just, I'd rather Cooper Lord right now.
Interesting. So what about, I mean, the big question, the $1 million question, what was it? Why didn't we win? Was there things that St Kilda did that you thought were like, oh, that's worked well against us? Or why didn't we put more points on the board to you?
Well, it started really hot for us. I thought we were about to absolutely pant them. Harry kicked about 2 goals in a minute. Midfield was on top, moving the ball quick. Like, that was a big thing for me, was ball movement early. I was noting down, looks like we're really using the short kick, getting overlap runners and options out to the guy who's marked the ball in D50, which was a big difference to maybe last year where we'd get the ball and there was almost no options. Felt like we were working really hard to, as soon as anyone's got the ball, there's numbers for a quick handball running past the guy. And that was something I noted down. There was almost this, we'd get the ball off halfback and instead of just going long down the line or going for that simple kick we've always done, they were looking for another option, sideways for a kick, backwards for a kick. There seemed to be a clear directive in getting extra touches on the football, moving the ball quickly. That seemed to, after quarter time, just disappear. Now, was it because it was 30 degrees plus heat? Were they tired? Did they go, maybe let's not try this? Was there a tactic shift? Was it, okay, perfect, we've nailed that. Quarter two, we're going to try this other plan we've got. Who knows? You're not going to get that out of the coaches from these practice games. But I'd say from quarter time onwards, St. Kilda wanted the ball more. They had way more pressure. Thought our tackle pressure was kind of non-existent. And then from that point on, ball movement, vision, tactical setup ahead of the ball just wasn't there. And it was slightly concerning because that was a criticism of last season, how we structured up in that forward line when we had the ball. What was our methodology? What was our brand of football to get it from point A to give us a goal? And we should have these style of play or certain plays in our playbook of this is route one Carlton goal. This is what we know we do as Carlton. Good luck trying to stop it. Felt like it was all over the place. Very disjointed. Missing easy handballs, disposal was awful. It was kind of everything wasn't good after quarter time. Everything that was kind of bad last year was bad here, which is where I think a lot of fans are quite concerned off this game. We didn't kind of put that in the past and now we're all of a sudden better. We didn't fix all these issues. They're still sort of triggered in everyone's thoughts, but I'm going to obviously give it another watch against GWS closer to the season, see how things pan out. But the reason we lost, I think, is just simple. St. Kilda wanted it more and they were just way cleaner in possession.
Yeah. Well, I guess wanting it more is a good way to lose a match simulation. That's kind of what, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
When in theory, we don't want people to be going too hard at this stage and getting injured.
And that was a point I was jotting down as a question. In last season, we lost both of our practice matches, played really poorly. Now, we started the first half against Brisbane bad, flicked a switch, won that game. We're pretty good to start the year. A couple of seasons before that, we won a few of our preseason games and then lost the start to the season. So I don't think it can dictate necessarily winning these preseason games into how you play. But if you're looking at it on paper, who's got more to prove in these preseason games to build that confidence? It's definitely St. Kilda compared to us maybe trying a few more things. So it didn't surprise me. Wasn't like it was a blowout and you're thinking, oh, wow, Carlton was so bad in this game. We're going to be a bottom 4 team. Wouldn't overreact in that in the slightest. But there was at least some positives in some individual players. Maybe didn't get a read on everything I wanted. There was a few negatives that are slight concerns, but at the end of the day, they've called it a match simulation. They're not even willing to call it a practice match. That's how much it doesn't feel like a real game. Exactly. I'm going to wait till I see GWS to try and take anything from this 100%. And then still, even then, there's grain of salts with a lot of it. But I'm going to look for the positives in these games from the individual glimpses. And that's kind of what I'm going to take from these.
Give me your navy blue corner, blue bagger badge of honor. 3, 2, 1.
Ooh, this is tough. I think 3 Motlop easy.
Really? Okay.
2, I'm going to give Matt Carroll because the 2, for those new listeners and watchers this season, our voting system is 3 to the best on ground. 2 votes goes to not the second best player on ground, but the player that went above and beyond expectations of them. So last year, there were quite a few votes early in this season for a guy like Elijah Hollins because we didn't know what to expect. Played some really good games, but that meant he wasn't getting many of those 2 votes for the rest of the year because he had set a standard for himself. It's hard to go above and beyond. In this game, that was Matt Carroll for me. I expected nothing and got so much more. And now I'm excited to see what he can do in this GWS game if he's playing. That's an exciting thing I didn't have beforehand. Yeah.
One
I
question.
quite like that.
Did Jack Carroll play?
No, I believe he's injured. Or if he did play, didn't side him. So he wasn't of any influence, but I don't believe he was out there.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure he's injured.
Cool. And your one.
My one. This is very tough. It's probably DeConing. I think it was probably second best out there. Loved when he was around the ground, taking big grabs, intercepting. Just looked like a beast. Just like I said with Jesse Motlop, looked like when there was something exciting going to happen. DeConing was, well, he's winning the ball here. If the ball gets near him, it's the vortex straight into his hands. That's what I love from DeConing.
That's beautiful. Do you have any other notes that you took down on the sim?
I kind of have a little bit of one, which is just something I wanted to, like, going into this game, there were things I wanted to see. It was Jagga Smith, Nick Haynes, Brody Kemp, Ollie Hollins, and then the small forwards. Now, take, I guess, Jagga Smith away from this and then Brody Kemp because we didn't see him.
Yeah.
The small, feel like I got enough out of the rest, except for small forwards. Motlop did heaps. Really wanted to see what Corey Durden could do. He came on, hurt his ankle immediately. Doesn't look serious at all, but the club just went, there is no point in you even slightly aggravating this at all. There's plenty of smalls out there. Maybe would have liked to have seen Zach Williams be a bit more involved. I know he was in there for a center bounce, but I didn't get a lot of a read from that. Fogarty was just kind of going through the motions like I think a lot of the players were.
Yeah.
Actually, one player I should mention that or probably should have got the one vote potentially is a George Hewitt. He was just, I saw Paolo put this word out there, which was professional. And immediately I wrote that down because it was better than anything I had, because it was just what you expect from George Hewitt. When the ball's there, he wins it. He does the right thing. And he was at the ball for the whole game. In and under 9 out of 10 George Hewitt game that he does every single week. It was when you have all those little other pieces that you're unsure of that he's being trialed, it was nice to just be like, yep, well, you just know he's going to do that every single week. He's back where he was last year, just dominating like usual. Loved what I saw again from a guy like George Hewitt, who we've thrown the question mark out there. Is his spot up for grabs for someone that can do more than just that inside role, which I don't think is too unfair to say.
Agree.
This was one of those performances where you go, yeah, you got to catch him first. We can throw the question out there, but you've got to put in the work. And I really liked what I saw from George Hewitt again.
No, he's good at doing that, old George, isn't he? Whenever you question him, he delivers.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you have any other questions or things you were hoping to get a glimpse of in this match simulation?
No, I mean, we were pretty aligned. Like, Kemp was a big one where when I saw him on the team sheet, I was like, beautiful. What is this role going to look like? And then did they say is why they left him out? Was it just a structural thing?
I think so. The words that I had read were along the lines of, we wanted to get him a full game, so we played him in the VFL. Now, I don't know if that was,
did he? Okay.
We want more confidence in you at a lower level, or we wanted to try something else and we weren't sure we were going to give you the full game. You might have only played a half. We didn't want that. I don't really know. I'm more speculating on it, but
gotcha. Okay.
Hopefully we can see it in this GWS game, because I just want to know. We've seen 2-3 games of it. I want to see a lot more than that before we can really make our minds up.
Yeah.
That's pretty much most of what I gleaned from this game. There wasn't too much I think he can take from it, but I'm interested to know what everyone else that watched it thought. Drop it in the comments. Let us know on the socials at Navy Blue Corner. What were your key takeaways from this match simulation? Are you concerned about anything at all? Should we be reading more into things than we currently are? Let us know. Very excited to know if anyone's sort of rankings of players have changed from this. Again, let us know in those comments. But Lockie, is there anything else you wanted to add before we head off?
Bring on the Giants.
Absolutely. That's going to wrap up this match simulation review. Hopefully things will be a bit more positive heading onwards. Thoughts are with Jagga Smith. Obviously, you never want to see a young player go down with that kind of injury, the worst way for his season to begin. But for those watching, those listening, there's plenty more preseason content coming from us. Our best 23 in depth chart episode is coming up in the next couple of days. And then next week, we'll be reviewing the GWS game and, of course, building up the round 1 clash against the Tigers. Let's get up and about. Up the bloody baggers. See you guys next time.